Well, I am sure running late tonight. Doggone it, I'm going to have to talk to the NFL about that. Why would they go and put my Seahawks on Monday Night Football when that's my video night? Well, at least the Seahawks won. And I'm glad of that. I don't watch a lot of Seahawks games, but since I, am somebody who's grown up and lived most of my life in Seattle, that Seahawks is a team I choose to follow. And I have now watched, I think, 3 games this season so far, 2 or 3 games. I think I saw a game with my partner Chris when I was in Seattle, and I've seen 2 games here with Kat and Ventura. And so I like to catch the Seahawks once in a while, but doggone it, when they put them on Monday Night Football, it just messes up my video schedule. I'm going to have to talk to the NFL about that. I'll give them a phone call tomorrow and let them know what I think. Think it'll do any good? I doubt it. Well, thanks for joining me tonight. And yes, it's another weekly wrap up on our video. And last week, we left you with an assignment. And that assignment was to create your own recipe for the sexual life that you would like to have a year from now. And I also then suggested to go onto a site like FetLife and take a look at various things there, because it's kind of like going into a store with all the possible ingredients, or all the ingredients you could possibly have in your recipe in one place. And that would be then the store of FetLife. And so that was one possibility that I brought up and mentioned to you. And so, I said that recipe kind of was inconsistent and in congruence with the assignments from the previous 4 weeks that we've had you do. First started out talking about having conversations about establishing and building trust with your partners. And then went from there to having a conversation about your values and being able to really understand your values and figure out whether your values are in conflict or if they're not. This is something that in our coaching practice that we do work with our clients on, because so often, that we have them first start out by talking about and writing down a game plan for their life. And we go into a lot of time and detail with them on that. And then they come up with the game plan. And so then the next thing is taking and starting to talk about the values, because so often we can get tripped up on our values, or our values will be in conflict with our desires. And people sometimes don't even really recognize this. And it's important that your values be clear and in alignment with the desires that you have for the life that you want to create. And so then that was then talked about a couple weeks ago as the values. And then last week talked about creating that recipe in order to really design your ideal sex life, what it would look like a year from now. And so thanks for joining us. And if you care to let us know where you are joining us from, the city and the state or the country, then comment in the comment section. But thank you for joining us. If you have questions, this is an interactive session every Monday night. And so I'm happy to interact with you and answer questions and things of that nature as well. But so thanks for being here. But so anyway, and there's a few people here with us tonight, and so I appreciate that. But so then designing your life and your sex life, your ideal sex life, and that can always change, because part of your ideal sex life, maybe you just want to be more liberated and free to explore and find out what you like and what you don't like. And I mentioned then a really great place to go is a site like FetLife. And that's kind of like a grocery store where you would have every flavor and every kind of legal sexual activity that's imaginable. And so that's a great place to go. And that would be fetlife.com. If you're not familiar with that, that's FETLIFE.com. You can get a free membership. I certainly encourage you to consider supporting them, but they don't ever ask you for money. It's strictly on a donation volunteer basis. It's a nonprofit operation. And so, but it's a great place to explore. And maybe one of these nights on a Monday night, I'll get onto that website and explore around. I have to find out from John, the guy who started the organization, if that's something that would really be in violation, because I certainly wouldn't want to show of anybody's personal private information, but even just kind of giving you a little bit of a inside peek might be something that would be in violation, in that you would need to be a member. I'm not sure. But anyway, it's a great place for you to know about and to explore. As I mentioned last week, that first time I went on that site myself, it was a scary place in that I was a super vanilla guy. I mean, I was just, I'd never had sex with another person other than my wife. And it wasn't very good sex for the 27 years that she and I had been having sex at the time I joined Fet Life. And somebody suggested for me to go and have a look around there. And I just thought that place was way too weird for me. And so I didn't come back for a whole year. When I left that first time that I went and checked it all out, then I went away and didn't come back for a whole year. And a year later, though, that the person that convinced me to go ahead and put my profile on the first time to begin with, then he suggested, because I told him, I says, well, no, I haven't been on there since I opened my profile a year ago, and it's just a lot of creepy stuff there. And so that's where then he suggested I go and I look into the groups on Fet Life, and it's in the groups. Then I would find they even had Christian groups, and at that time I was still considering myself to be a really good Christian guy, and no longer a churchgoer, but a good Christian guy. And so he suggested going and finding groups, and that I would be able to take and find as a community. And so I did that, and that was helpful. So since then, obviously through my own journey of sexual liberation, then I have liberated myself from many of those old roots that I had, in those things where, I just couldn't imagine stuff that I'm open to today. And so I encourage you in creating, that's what last week's video was all about, creating your own recipe, so that as we go into December here and then into next year, that you have a clearly written out plan on what you want to create for your sexual life next year. And, how many people does that involve? And so tonight's topic, let me go ahead and just kind of get into that. And this is a good time for that, I think, to introduce the topic. Is about sexual abundance in an ECNM tribe. Let me first explain the idea of ECNM Tribes. This is something that is something my nonprofit organization that I'm co-founder of, Non-Monogamous Lifestyles Association. There's I think some information about that down in the description when I get the description written. I'm short on time tonight, so I did not get the description filled out, but as soon as this video is complete, then I'll go ahead and get that finished filling it out. And so there'll be information there for that. But in all the other videos, the information is there. And that's information about the nonprofit organization that I co-founded called Non-Monogamous Lifestyles Association, where it's our goal to take and make non-ethical and consensual non-monogamous relationships completely socially acceptable in our culture and society. And so that, you can go to work then and talk about the fact openly, the fact that, like, some people will talk about, went out with my wife for dinner on Friday night, and then on Saturday we went out on a road trip for the day. During the time of COVID, we're not really seeing and getting out to friends and relatives, but we kind of stay to ourselves. You couldn't even say something like that to coworkers, not even in a Zoom meeting that most people can't, that you spent Friday night with your girlfriend or Friday night with your boyfriend and Saturday with your spouse. Can't say something like that. But why not? And why can't you be available? It's not just whether you're in a relationship or you're single. It's like that's the only two options that the world seems to know. You're either in a relationship or you're single. Well, why can't you be in a relationship and be available? I am. I am in several relationships, and yet I'm available. And so, that should be an option. And it should be an option that you can talk to people about just as casually as you talk to people about your boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, husband, wife relationship. And then why can't we have a society where having more sex with more people more often is perfectly acceptable, instead of you dirty guy, or you dirty little slutty woman, and it should be totally acceptable. And so that's where then the talking about tribes tonight, and that Non-Monogamous Lifestyles Association, my nonprofit organization that I co-founded, it is starting to create a concept of having tribes. And I'll be talking more about this in next year, because it's something that we just started to really develop this year. In that the tribes could be either a geographically located tribe. For instance, here I'm in Ventura, California right now, and we could have a tribe in the Ventura area. Or it could be a tribe that is maybe for a particular distinction. Maybe, for instance, a tribe of people who were into ABDL and relationships. And it could be, instead of just being local, it could be a little larger, and could be like in 3 or 4 states. And so, but the idea of tribes is, I spent some time working on this yesterday, and that's where there will be 25, we call them pillars. And I'm thinking 25 is the number. I've got to get that worked out. But there'll be 25 pillars in each tribe. And that is that each tribe then would have questions that whoever is the person that starts the tribe, and anybody could start a tribe, then whoever is the person that starts the tribe will answer 25 questions that will clearly define what the pillars of that tribe is all about, that makes that tribe totally different than another tribe. And so then you, as an ethically and consensually non-monogamous person, you can belong to one tribe or you can belong to multiple tribes. But the idea is that we want to have these tribes then would be people that you're involved with, that where you can openly, honestly, ethically have more sex with more people. And that we believe that a tribe should be a place where your sex life should be fulfilled abundantly, whatever interest that your sex life involves. If you have particular kinks, and I hope you do. And I remember very early in my journey in all of this, I decided one night to attend a workshop, and it was about are you a kinky person? Because I honestly didn't think that I was a very kinky person. But it's really interesting, because some people, this goes back, let's see, probably 12 years ago, a little over 12 years ago, probably closer to 13 years ago now, that I went to that workshop. And I knew the woman who was leading the workshop. She's a nationally known speaker in the area of human sexuality. And and she's very kinky. She was based out of Seattle, and so put on a lot of workshops and events in Seattle. And Elena Gabosh is her name, and so she did this workshop about kink, and and I kind of thought about kink being all the stuff that I just couldn't imagine that me ever being interested in. And so I went to the workshop, and she handed out lots of resources and some sheets and things, and I was surprised at things they said were kink, like, for instance, oral sex. And well, I guess anything short or anything outside of what would be sexual intercourse in the missionary position would be considered to be kinky, because oftentimes in relationships, that's what a lot of relationships just come down to, which was certainly my relationship that I had with my wife at that time, was, missionary sex once a week, or 3 times a week rather, and for 10 or 15 minutes, and boom, that was it. And so anything outside of that is just like kinky. People think about it as being kinky, and my wife certainly did. And so anyway, I went off to this workshop, and I attended the workshop for 2 hours, and then the workshop wrapped up, and I went up afterwards, and I had a conversation with Elena, and I said, the person giving the workshop, I says, Elena, you've known me now for about 6 months, and we've met on several occasions, so you know me, fairly well. And this is, I'm just not sure if I'm a kinky kind of person. And she kind of laughed. She's a large woman, and she has a loud, boisterous laugh. And she says, "Oh, Mark, you're plenty kinky." And so she had a little conversation. And for me, I guess it was just opening that door for myself. And that I have spent so many years in the Christian life that I had lived, that it's like, yeah, that was something that I needed to have opened for myself, and to then allow myself to think that, yeah, it's okay to be a kinky person. It's okay to have my kinks. And, certainly there's a lot of stuff that are not my kinks, but there are a lot of things that are. And so fast forward to the time when I am starting to date Kat, and we go on our first date. This is about 6.5 years ago. And we're walking in this park in Seattle, nice sunny day, and then before we hardly get started, she just like blurts out there. She says, "So, tell me about what your kinks are." We just started dating, hadn't had sex yet, and so she blurts out this question: "What are your kinks?" And so suddenly my mind starts to race, and I didn't know how to answer that. And I thought about it. My head spins pretty fast, and I thought about it. And so I decided that I would go ahead and answer it just flat out blunt. And I'm going to tell her my deepest, longest standing kink, my darkest fantasy and desire that I've had for many years, that I haven't ever told anybody, except with the exception of my wife, really. And so I told her what that was, and that's adult nursing relationships, A&R. And I'd love to have a woman to have an adult nursing relationship that is highly sexual with, and a woman who then is lactating, and she would nurse me, and I'd enjoy her milk. And so, that's pretty kinky for some people, and she had never heard that. She had, pretty vanilla herself, but she had never heard of anything like that, and that was kind of kinky, and she didn't know what to think about it. But I told her, and I figured it was either going to send her running, or it'll open up things for us in our relationship. And sure enough, that's what it ended up doing. And that's where I found, and I've learned from that it's really, if you want to create the relationships of your dreams and the relationships that you desire to have, do not hold back in reserve. I played that role for myself for too many years, and you really end up compromising and sacrificing. And it comes from the standpoint that we get our lives and our minds stuck in this area called scarcity. instead of abundance. You know, we're afraid that this person that I'm cultivating this relationship right now, we're afraid, what if that just doesn't go well and I lose that person? And you know, and my thinking now is like, oh, good. And let me see if I can lose this relationship by being authentic and true to who I am, letting this person see me for the rawness that I am. And when they're able to see me for the rawness that I am, then if they still love me and still really like me, then I think I probably have a good relationship going then. But if on the other hand, they get scared away, or they start to judge me, or they just feel creeped out, or anything else, or if the person that they like with me is based on lies or just not telling the whole truth, because they just don't know the whole story. I'm kind of holding things back and hiding some things that I'm not ready to open up about and divulge yet. You know, that's how we get into problems in our relationships. And then we go down the road, and 20 years later or 10 years later, we wonder why we want to cheat on that person, or we want to get a divorce, or we are just so unhappy because we're not having the sexual enjoyment that we want to have. Or we simply take, as I did for many years, you just make it so the sex is just not a big deal in your life. It's just not that important. But the harder I tried to squish that little sex bug that was deep inside me, and just kept pushing it away and covering it up, the more I did that, the more it started popping its ugly little head up, you know? And the years just clicked by. I mean, 25 years clicked by where I kind of push that little bug down, you know, and cover it up. And after 25 years, I then finally reached that point where it's not going to work for the rest of my life. You know, I mean, 45 years old at that point, and thinking, I still got a lot of life left to live, and I don't want to be having the same experiences that I'm having now for the rest of my life. And so that's why then I decided it was time to risk a divorce with my wife, to start talking to her, being open and honest and authentic to what's going on inside of me and what my true desires and wants are sexually. But you see, then that's why I asked you then to create that recipe last week. And that if you go ahead and just write down what that recipe is for you, then you can have that conversation with the people that you either are now in a relationship with and the people you are going to get into a relationship with. But if you don't have the recipe, you can always change it. You know, it's not like, well, let's see, March comes along and, you know, I'm just not sure that's what the recipe that I want for the rest of the year is. You can always change it. And so you're not stuck with it, but you've got to at least have a recipe to get you started. And creating and developing a sex life for yourself that has more sex with more people more often. Anyway, I hope that that's why you keep coming back here to my channel every week and watching my videos. I mean, I get over 1,000 video watches every single month, and I really am appreciative of that. And I think it's 10,000. Every time I look at the number, it never sinks into my head, but it really amazes me. It's like 1,000. No, I think it's because I've got over 800 now viewers, but our subscribers. So I think it's like 10,000 views a month that I actually get on my channel. And so it's very humbling, very honoring that people find something that they want to come and listen to on my channel. And I appreciate your being here with me tonight, and those of you that are here. And so if you have any questions as I'm talking about this, then be sure to ask your questions or make any comments you want in the comments box. And I'm happy to address your questions or comments. But yeah, that's really what I am here to encourage you in, is having more sex with more people more often, but not to do it where you're cheating, but not to do it where if you're single, then you're having sex with this person, and then having sex with this person over here, but they don't know you're having sex with multiple people. They think that they're the only one and things like this, and so to be open and honest and is the only way, to me, that's the right way, and that's ethical and consensually non-monogamy. And so anyway, you create that recipe for yourself so that you can have that course then that you can move forward with in your life for the next year of how you're going to expand. What would give you more satisfaction and more pleasure when it comes to sex next year? Because that's really where, every week I talk about this, that where you always want to be looking at having more satisfaction and pleasure in the areas of your life and increasing that. If there's something then that starts to take away from your satisfaction and pleasure that you're having and takes a little dip, then that's an indication that you need to kind of turn things around a little bit there in one way. Did I leave all notion of sin behind for good when quitting religion? Thank you very much for the question. That's an excellent question. And one of the things that we do in our coaching business today is we go through a 3-part process that I developed. And the first part of that is called reframing. And the second part of the process is to transform your life. And the third part is to liberate your life. And then my coaching practice is focused upon helping people to live an elf life that's easy, liberated, and fun. And so my coaching is really based on a lot of the journeys and the lessons that I've learned personally. And so in answering your question, when quitting religion and getting away from religion, did I leave all notion of sin behind? It took me a long time in working through that. But the first thing then, because we talk about sin, is I had to understand, what do I think about sin? What is sin, and what's my relationship with God or higher being or whatever you want to call it. I just call it energy. And what is your relationship? You've got to sort all those things out. And it took me, honest with you, it took me years to sort those things out. But right away, one of the things that I obviously, in order for me to enjoy having an ethical and consensual non-monogamous relationship with multiple women, then I had to address head on my thoughts on this whole idea of sex outside of a marriage and sex with multiple people being right or wrong. And because, I had always looked at it as being just a terrible, perverted thing to have sex with anybody other than the one person in your life that you got married to, and when you got married when you were a virgin. And that's kind of how I had looked at it for so many years. But fortunately, my journey in all this is that I first came to where I was about 44 years old. And I one day looked in the mirror and realized I had become the religious person I never wanted to be. And so I walked away from the church that day. And when I walked away from the church, it means I walked away from my friends. I walked away from the activities and all the things that I was involved in the community. I mean, I had been on the chairman of the board for a nonprofit organization that I was a kind of a big deal with a lot of churches. And so I just closed the door on all that and disappeared from it. And so then I was at a place where then it's like, I've got to figure this all out. And I just went on a journey, and that journey took me down a path where then slowly I started to change. And it wasn't until when I was 44 years old, my wife, I didn't talk to her about us opening our marriage until I was 47 years old. And we didn't open our marriage until I was 49. And so you can see there's a transition process here of 5 years. Now, it doesn't have to take that long. That's why I'd recommend for people to get some coaching if they're having some of the same difficulties that I was having. So, for instance, I started to shift my thinking about sex in realizing that one of the things for my life is that sex is a loving connection. And I'm a lover, and I wanted to be more loving, and I wanted to feel a lot more love from women as well. And women love me. And I love that energy that I get knowing that women love me and they fall in love with me, and I love women, and so I had to then understand that having relationships with multiple women then is not going to be a bad thing at all, and I read a book. This book was very instrumental to me as a Christian, and the book is called Divine Sex. In fact, I have got permission to give the ebook. You can buy it on Amazon, Divine Sex, by Darwin Chandler, which is not the author's real name. That's just a pseudonym. But I got to know the author personally, and so Darwin Chandler, he was a retired minister in 3 different denominations, and so I won't go into the story on that and how he wrote the book, but it's an amazing work that really it transformed my thinking about what God Himself says and thinks about sex, and it's religion that really has it all messed up. And so I had walked away from religion. And so I no longer, I accept the fact that religion creates a lot of problems in the world. I mean, religion used to think that it was perfectly fine that people of color in the United States were less than human, and it was okay to treat them poorly and badly. And there's been a lot of really bad stuff come out in the name of religion, that was preached from the pulpit, and so the whole idea and concept of sin was something I had to reframe and rethink, and which is what reframing is just going through a process, gathering more information, gathering new knowledge, and then rethink it for yourself instead of just accepting blindly whatever is handed to you. And so in our coaching, we take people through this process of reframing in many areas of their life. And a lot of times it has to do then also with beliefs that we get stuck with. And we have some amazing processes that we have been certified and trained by our mentor, Chris Duncan, who's a pioneer in the area of magnetic energy work. And so we have some amazing processes where we used to going to a therapist for like 6 months that we can do in a 1-hour session, what used to take 6 months going to a therapist to achieve. And so anyway, but so the idea of sin, for me, just personally then, yes, it took me 5 years to move from where I left my church life and then reframed and then went through a transition phase. And then finally, 5 years later, for the first time, I'm having sex with multiple women. And at that point then, is like, yeah, my whole ideas of what was right and what was wrong, what was sinful and what was not sinful had changed by then. And it was because I'd gotten a lot more knowledge and information that had come to me. And Darwin Chandler's book was one, Divine Sex. And so, if that's something that would be helpful to you, then please send me an email. My email address is not right yet in the description because I didn't get the description posted before I started making this video here tonight. But right after the video is made, I'll put the email address and information down there. It's in all the other videos, and just open the description of any video. But my email address is there, and we can take and figure out a way to get that to you. If you'd like to get the ebook copy, but if you want to purchase it, you can purchase it on Amazon as well. And that really helped me. And then that was just one resource for me. reading is a very useful way for me to do reframing. And for other people, they have other means. We find out what are the means that's going to work best for you in doing the reframing work for you, and also help you. Like if you're getting private coaching with us, how can we do this the quickest way with you? It's like I said, it took me 5 years to reframe a lot of this stuff, and it shouldn't take that long. It shouldn't take, but several months. And so, yeah, the whole idea of sin, the church, they try to take and tell you what sin is. And of course, to the church, with the top of the list, sin is sex with anybody outside of one person that you're married to for the rest of your life. And sin is the worst sex you can have, but yet the Bible says that there is no such thing as one sin being worse than another. And so there's lots of different things that go into reframing when it came to my life personally about sin and God and spirituality, because I'm a very spiritual person. I'm just no longer a religious person. And I also, even some of the coaching work that I do, help people to understand that we are energetic beings in physical form. And our energies weren't just like, I'm 63 years old. And so that means that my energy didn't get created, suddenly come together 64 years ago when my mom was having hanky-panky on New Year's with her boss and at work, and whoops, she got pregnant, and then he was an older man. He owned the movie theater that she worked at, and then she got pregnant. She quit, never told him. And I've got a whole family of half brothers and sisters that are there in the Seattle area. My grandma, she kept tabs on them for a long time for him because she worked in a job where she could easily keep tabs on them. And so she did. And I didn't know that until I was 25 years old. And we'll go into all that, go into that too much depth, but I've never met my father, never knew who he was until I used some threats when I was 21 years old to find out, because I was told a bunch of lies for all my life up until I was 21 years old. And so anyway, so get back on track here. Did that answer your question as far as you asked me about, did I leave all notion of sin behind for good when quitting religion? That I don't use the word sin myself anymore, because sin it comes from religious beliefs, and I use that there are good energies and there are bad energies. And so it's like and things are neutral, like, money and your life is neutral, but yet you have the option with your life of doing good things, and you have the option of doing bad things. Same thing, money can do good things, it can do bad things. Same thing with businesses, corporations, and employers. They can do good things and they can do bad things. For most of us, that we do a combination of good and bad things. For most of us, we use our money in ways that's both good and bad. And time is the same thing. How you spend your time can be used in good ways and can be used in bad ways. Most of us, I find, we just end up wasting it. And that's one of the things in our coaching program where we help people to get on track and not be wasting their life, but to really make a difference with their life. But so let me get myself back on track then. And like I said, then I'm talking about then creating that recipe. And thank you very much for letting me know and for the comment. But yeah, creating that recipe and for yourself, and thinking about then what is going to bring you more satisfaction and pleasure in your sex life next year, a year from now, of looking back on it. What would you be able to look back and say, man, I had a wonderful year with my sexuality? Would it mean having sex with more people more often? And maybe like how many more people do you want like to have, there are people out there that they know they don't ever like having sex with the same person twice, and so that's fine. I that's perfectly fine. It's not me. I really enjoy the aspects of relationships and having sex, a connection with the person that I have sex with. And but that's not really important to a lot of people. A lot of people that they're just horny and they just want to have sex, and that's perfectly fine. I once in a while enjoy that myself. I've been to sex parties and I've been to sex clubs and I've been to places where that's where you go to have sex. I've hosted many sex parties, and so it's like this. It's part of the joy, and so that's part of the recipe as well for you to figure out. Then is that what is involved in that recipe? What kind of sexual activities, but then also with how many people, what's that structure look like? Because if you don't really design it, then you're just randomly going through life, and you'll never really have where your satisfaction, you can count on it going up, because you're just randomly, it'll go up and it'll go down, it'll go up and it'll go down. And so we want to help you to create a life sexually where it is increasing, and which then that's actually the topic for tonight's video. Let me take a quick drink here. Diet Fresca. But now the topic for tonight's video is the idea of sexual abundance in an ECNM tribe. That's ethical, consensual, non-monogamous. And then, like I said, we are creating through my nonprofit organization, Non-Monogamous Lifestyles Association, we're creating a structure where people who live an ethically and consensually non-monogamous life, when you think about it, I know a lot of people in this time of COVID that are either there's single people and also people who are partnered, but of all ages. But the fact that COVID come along and it just shut them down, where they're not having sex. If they're a couple, then they have sex together. But if they what they really enjoy and get a lot of satisfaction and pleasure from is having sex with more people more often, and then COVID has really shut a lot of people down. If you're a single person, in which I get in conversations every single week with single people, that they are shut down and they're miserable, and so it doesn't have to be that way. Even here in the time of COVID, I'm having a wonderful sex time of sex with multiple people. And not as many people as I would like, admittedly. I have reduced myself because I really want to make sure that someone is COVID safe. And so that I cut back my own ability to intermingle and meet people. And so I don't have as many sexual partners as I would like to have. And so then, next year, do I want to change that? Yes, I want to change that. And so that's just something for me then. And like I said, that for me, I prefer to have an ongoing relationship with someone, particularly now during the time of COVID, and that I really screen people to make sure that they meet my standards for COVID safety. And in fact, I have a written set of standards that are well thought out. I was in the military, in the Army. I was a biological defense specialist, so that if we ever had any biological agents that were used in wartime, then I had specialized training. That was my specialty. I had to figure out what the biological agent was and what the damage could be and how it was disseminated, and whether it's coming through the water, through the air, through the food, how is it getting to people? Had to figure out things like then if there was a particular biological attack in one place, then how long how can it be contained, or how long would it take before it gets to where maybe there's a large contingency of troops and a large population of people. And so that I had to advise high-ranking officers, and they would then either move thousands of troops. And fortunately, this is, for me, it was all done during peacetime, but we had exercises that we had to do our jobs. And my job then was a biological defense expert. And how that would work is that somebody would come into, I had this little, basically a camper on a truck, okay, and it was heated. That's one of the things I really loved, but I had like charts, maps, and charts on the wall in there, and all kinds of instruments to help me to know like wind at the different elevations in the atmosphere and stuff like this, and just all kinds of testing instruments. But so anyway, I had in peacetime exercises then before I joined this particular unit. Then they, for the last 3-4 years, had gone through 5 people who were school trained. The position required it to be a staff sergeant or E5 or an E6 pay grade. And these guys are school trained then as a specialist in this area. And they would be in this little camper, and when we'd be out practicing little war games and stuff, which would be quite often in Germany. This is in Germany. And Germany is much higher alert status than the United States, especially this is during the Cold War era. And Russia did in 1979 use biological weapons in their invasion in Afghanistan, when they invaded Afghanistan in December of 1979, and so that's, very few people know that, and it was kept secret for many years, but it's no longer top secret, so it can be shared now. But so anyway, I would be in my little camper, and then someone would, it was usually a major, would step into my camper, hand me a note, and it basically had some little detailed information on it. And I had to decipher that information and then get my instruments out and use them properly. But for like 3, 4, 5 years in a row, the person that had been doing that job had failed time after time. And the way that this works is no matter how good your troops on the ground can perform their job, then if that person performing that job as a biological expert can't do his job, then all the other troops are going to be dead. So it doesn't matter how good the troops can do their job. And that was the importance of this one function. And this one, they'd gone through for 5 years, been through people that could not pass these tests. And I was just kind of a nerdy guy, and I started reading all the manuals and studying them. And then one day they came in and they fired, and I volunteered then. It wasn't even my real job, but I volunteered then. And so then this captain, one day he comes in, he says, "That guy's fired. Can you do this?" And I says, "Yeah." And I says, "Okay." And then we went on an alert, and then sure enough, a major showed up and gave me a little piece of paper. And I passed the test, and I kept passing tests. I never failed a test. And I got a lot of notice, and I got a lot of favors from high-ranking officers because of it, because of the importance of being able to do the job that I did. And then at first it was just from my own knowledge. You were supposed to be at least an E5 to be able to go to the schools, and here I was an E2, and so they couldn't send me out of the school. They promoted me to E3, and then promoted me to E4 right away. And as an E4 then, with the signature of some high-ranking officer, I was able to go and actually become school trained then in the knowledge and stuff that I was supposed to have to know about. And that's how that all happened. But anyway, so let me get back on track. I'm sorry for getting so far off track. So this whole idea then, I want my channel is about helping you to have an abundance of sexual liberation. That's more sex with more people more often, so that you can have satisfaction and pleasure abundantly and have more from one year to the next. Instead of, I'm 63 years old. I am enjoying the best years sexually of my life. And I meet a lot of people that are younger than I am, that they've already given up on the party. And like, well, I'm just kind of slowing down a little bit, and all kinds of different things that I hear. And the fact is, right now, as we know, me coming online here every week, I'm transitioning my income to online income. And with that, then I want to start getting the money rolling in. First thing that I've prioritized my money for is some specialized medical testing. And because I want to be able to take, when I'm in my 80s, I want to have women who are in their 20s and 30s, hot, sexy women, desire me. And young women love old guys, as long as they don't look ugly and fat. And so I think I look pretty good now, but I want to look even better. But not only that, I want to be able to take and have the sexual performance that a 20 and a 30-year-old would just delight in. And I do pretty good now. And fact is, I think really good now. And but I want to be better. It's like, yeah, why do I want that from year to year to start to drop down? I mean, I'm just getting started. I'm only 13 years into my ethical and consensual non-monogamous life, and it's like I gave up 25 years or 27 years in my monogamous marriage, which was sexual misery. And so now that I've got that all turned around, boy, I want it to be a party for a long time. And I hope that you do too. And so that's why it's so important that if you haven't done the homework that we've been talking about for the last 5 weeks, go back through, watch those videos and pick up those homework assignments, write them down, and then do those homework assignments, because we want to help you. And you can do it the easy way, and that's kind of like do it yourself and do it that way. Or you can pay someone like me for my coaching services. And in fact, we have a special running right now of a coaching program. We're going to be doing, it's a group coaching program. We're kicking off in January. And it's about $650 for a 16-week coaching program. And so you can join the coaching program, and then if you want one-on-one coaching, I do one-on-one coaching as well. I find that a 20 to 30-minute session, if we really are doing a good job of coaching, is plenty of time. A 1 hour session, it's too much material for one person to really take on at one time. And so 20 to 30-minute coaching sessions are much more productive, I feel, than a 1 hour session that most therapists will try to charge you for. And my fees would be comparable to a therapist, about $300 an hour. But with a 30-minute sessions, then we get it down to $150 for a 30-minute session. And if you buy a packet of like 10 sessions, then we get it down to $100 per session. You buy a packet for $1,000 for upfront. And so if you want one-on-one coaching, then that's available as well. Again, my email address is available in the description box. Not there right now, but it will be after this video is finished, or you can click on the description of any of the videos and my email address is there. But so the whole idea then of your sexual abundance, we're creating this program with having tribes, and tribes would be then where individuals could be part of a tribe, because there's accountability within a tribe. It's kind of like when you go to work in a company, And, if you just really screw up bad, you're not going to get a good recommendation. And I've been an employer, and I know sometimes you got to really document things and then when someone goes on somewhere else, to not give a good recommendation. Well, basically when people would call me up, because sometimes now you don't want someone suing you as an employer, and you don't want someone suing you and because they screwed up, and you don't want to give them a good recommendation. And so most employers know you just simply say, I cannot give you a recommendation for that person. Oh, okay. That tells them everything they need to know without really telling them a thing. And so when you're out there, on your own as an individual, trying to have more sex with more people more often, then it's just a one-on-one hamster wheel where you're just chasing your tail forever. But when you can be part of a tribe of people that they kind of scrutinize, and it's not where you can just show up one day, but where they scrutinize. I have a tribe here I'm building in Ventura, California, and where this particular tribe, I'm looking for specific types of individual, because here in Ventura, if somebody says, well, your tribe doesn't quite match with, for instance, I'm not, we not interested in cigarette smokers, and if you like to smoke your pot, that's fine, I'm not going to judge you, but we don't want pot smokers in our tribe, and we don't want people that are going to be showing up and getting drunk, or need to have a little bit of alcohol to take the buzz off before they can have a good time having sex with other people. And see, my tribe was not for any of those kinds of situations. And so that doesn't preclude someone from starting a tribe, and through our association, Non-Monogamous Lifestyles Association, we'll help them to start a tribe, whatever kind of tribe they want to. And then we'll help to promote it and publicize it. But so anyway, so with my tribe then is that as we build the tribe, then people who come along and then finally get to where now you're a member of the tribe, guess what? Well, then you're a member of the tribe. And right now, part of the membership is you're going to be scrutinized carefully about COVID safety. If you don't meet my standards for COVID safety, and my standards are really high, and if you don't meet my standards for COVID safety, you're not going to be a part of my tribe. Okay. And so, that means then the people who are members of my tribe, they feel the sense of safety amongst members in our tribe. And so that everybody that becomes a member of the tribe basically is agreeing to have sex with everybody else in the tribe. Not where you have to have sex, where you're under some obligation or requirement. But, if you're feeling horny and you find someone else that says, I'd be game for sex, and we communicate, within the tribe and stuff like this, and so it's like, why not then? Why does it have to be this big, complicated situation to be able to have more sex with more people more often? Sex should be an abundant part of everybody's life. And so that's the whole idea of creating tribes. And so if you're not here in Ventura, California, and you're interested in creating a tribe, again, drop me a line, and we can then start having some emails about that. And because your comments and questions and your emails help me to really to think through and develop this concept, because it's just getting kicked off. And so it is in development. And the more input that I have from more people, the better then the whole concept will come together for everybody. Okay, and so then that's what I'm going to end on with, talking about the tribes tonight. So let's get over to the report, because it looks like we're going late tonight, but I'm going to just really buzz through the report then, and we'll get on with that. And so let's go ahead and share my screen over here to the... There we go, the video report card form. And so we're going to skip through that really quick, where I oftentimes like to talk about, these things here about, that we talk about, but because we're real short on time at this point, and so we're just going to come on down. Okay, so there isn't a homework assignment this week, is to email me with your thoughts and questions about ECNM Tribes. And so please let me have your thoughts and questions on that. Last week's homework was create your recipe. And then if you need some help with that and some ideas, then FetLife was my recommendation for that. Okay, we're going to real quick here, just get down to the report card portion. And I'm going to start with then the 3 things that I'm working on this week. And I'm kind of redoing this form a little bit and updating it because I realized that I really need to list out my 3 things for the week and then break it down every day. But also, I want to have 3 things that I'm personally working on and 3 things I'm working on for business. And so that I can kind of keep those a little separated. So like for this week then, my 3 things. For personally, I don't have 3 things yet. I've just written down 2 of them, but one is to empty my car. When I got here to Ventura, like about 6-7 weeks ago, then I came from Seattle, where then I had emptied out my RV and sold my RV, and my car is full. And so I've not emptied it out yet. And so I would like to take and get those things sorted out. And then later this week, I'm going to drive to Seattle. And I surprised my girlfriend in Seattle, Chris. I surprised her with that information today. And she was really happy about that because her birthday is on Christmas. And she kind of was of the understanding that I probably wouldn't be there this year for Christmas. But I decided that I'd go ahead and be there for Christmas, and I'm just going to do the quick drive up I-5. It's about 22 hours, a straight drive, and so I'll be there for her birthday. But I'm going to leave this week, so I'll spend a little more time than just being there for her birthday. She's born on Christmas Day. Business-wise, though, since before, when I was last in Seattle, I started working on, I think it was probably in September, this whole thing, trying to get my bookkeeping caught up for the year. Well, I'm still working on that. And so anyway, that's then one of my goals this week is to try to get that completed. Magnetic Mind certification completed. And that's a goal that was been for the last 2 weeks. And so that's somewhere I'm going to have to push through and get that thing done. Sometimes there's just not enough hours in a week. And then I last week on Monday, I made a video, myself and Kat, we made a video for the affiliate program that I'm working on and going to be marketing. And that video, it is stuck on my phone. And I used the camera in my phone to make the video, and I can't get the video out of my phone. And but I just today looked up some information online and found that it's not something that somebody hasn't run into before, and there's a fix for it. And so I'm just going to have to figure it out. But so that's what my goal then this week is, to get that video done. So I break my weekly down into a daily then, using this updated form that I have. And so that's then where I'm at for this week. But let's go ahead and move down here and reporting on last week. Now, I wanted to just mention then one of the things last week that was really great. Where's that information at? Did I go too far on my list? I'll bet I passed right on by it. I'm sorry about that. Let me go on up here. I really need to clean this form up because I just keep stacking things on it every week, and so I need to kind of clean it out, so to speak. It's kind of like cleaning the garage. You just keep putting things in the garage, and there we go. That's where I was at. There we go. So bottlenecks, breakdowns, and breakthroughs. So last week it was a bottleneck that became my breakdown and my breakthrough, and I got my first ever website done. And so it was to register for Kat and I did 2 webinars on Friday, And they were 2-hour webinars, and they're talking about how to go and the 3 steps for living an elf life: easy, liberated, and fun. And so if you're interested in seeing one of those webinars, well, I've got the recording I can send you. Just, send me an email, let me know you're interested in seeing them. And so, but yeah, three steps in living an easy, liberated, and fun life. But I wanted to create a webinar or a web page where people would register for the webinar or the web class. And I've never done anything like that on the internet before, on websites or anything like that. And so I was actually 2 weeks late in getting it done, but I did get it done last Tuesday. And people then could go out and get registered for the webinar so that we could give the 2 web classes on Friday. And we had a success with both web classes. We had people attending both web classes, and we just had a great time getting out that information in those 2 free web classes that we did last week. So that was a great breakthrough. But my goals for last week, first one here is to complete section 5 of magnetic mind training for my certification. And that's a fail. Did not even get to anything on that. The second one is to edit video for my affiliate. And that was the video that's stuck on my phone, and that I have worked trying to do many things throughout the last week to get that video off my phone and onto my computer so I could edit it. And like I said, then today I found that there's a way to work around it, and I'll be working on that later this week. But so that's a fail. The third thing was to take some time off, and I did that. In fact, it was almost all forced time off. And that last Monday afternoon, I started having a toothache, and then by Tuesday, I had to stop eating and just basically have a liquid diet. And by Wednesday and Thursday, my tooth I had a whale of a toothache. And I do a thing called oil pulling when that happens. But oil pulling is not instant. It takes a couple of days to pull that infection and everything out of the tooth and gum. And I have a chipped tooth, and infection had gotten in there. And so I haven't had a problem like that for 5 years or over 5 years. But when it happens, I know what to do at least. And so I did some oil pulling, but that also, when that infection takes over, it just wiped me out. And on Friday, when I wasn't doing the 2 web classes, which both took about 2.5 hours of my time, so it was 5 hours. The rest of the time I spent sleeping. And on Saturday, I went on a hike, and then the rest of the time I spent sleeping. And by Sunday, I was feeling pretty back to my normal energy, and feeling back to my normal energy today. So that's all been good. And so anyway, there is my weekly wrap up. And I appreciate you allowing me to come here and share these things with you every week. Not only talking to you about how to have more sex with more people more often, but also just sharing my life with you. And I really do appreciate your interest and knowing more. So if you have any questions, go ahead and put your questions in the type box, and I'll be happy to answer any quick questions or respond to any comments. Otherwise, I'm going to be wrapping this up here real quick in about another 30 seconds. So let me know real quick if you have something that you want me to address. And I'll look forward to next week. Boy, it'd be December already. I used to own a travel business, and used to be a vacation researcher, or travel researcher, and travel writer, and a lot of things I did in the travel business. And one of the things in the travel business is that people, always want the best deal they can get. Well, the best time of the year, normally non-COVID time, but the best time of the year to fly and go on any kind of vacation are the first 2 weeks in December. It is the airlines through normal times just die the first 2 weeks of November or December. So that's this period right now, right after Thanksgiving's over, and then into about the 15th of December. And because hotels and airlines and cruise lines and resorts and everybody during that time, it's their lowest time of the year. And so it's one of the best times to get the best deals of the year. So then looks like no comments and no questions. So I'm going to again then just say thank you very much for being here with me. I had good participation. Quite a few people joined us here tonight. And so thank you for that. And we'll see you then next week, next Monday night from Seattle, Washington. Thanks a lot now.